Today in the battle arena, we've got Peter Parker, the wall crawler, everyone's friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, going up against Aang, the Avatar, master of the four elements in the last Airbender. So, who's coming out on top here? Well, let's find out. Peter Parker was bitten by a radioactive spider as a teenager, granting him spider-like powers. After the death of his Uncle Ben, which he could have prevented, Peter learned that with great power comes great responsibility. Swearing to always protect the innocent from harm, Peter Parker became the amazing Spider-Man. Peter's a proportionate strength of a spider. He's able to lift over 10 tons easily. He's able to go toe-to-toe with villains like Venom and Rhino. He's even held his own against Iron Man and Hulk. When in stressful situations, Spider-Man is able to lift much more, even supporting the Daily Bugle at one point, and he stopped an airplane before. Spider-Man has incredible durability. He's able to easily withstand blows from Hulk and Rhino, buildings collapsing on him, and even the explosion from hand grenades. Peter is so tough that he once tensed his abdominal muscles against a trained boxer, and the boxer ended up breaking his wrist. However, Spider-Man isn't nearly as durable to penetrative forces, and it can still be hurt by knives and bullets. He possesses the speed, agility, and reflexes of a spider, and really this is probably one of Spider-Man's greatest assets. He's been described as fast as machine gun fire, and can move faster than the human eye can follow, but described as the most agile character in the Marvel Universe, and can easily dodge bullets and projectiles. One of Spider-Man's most famous abilities is his spider sense, which kind of functions as a sixth sense of sorts. It allows him to sense when danger is incoming. The spider sense, plus his speed, agility, and reflexes, make Spider-Man nearly impossible to hit. Peter is able to crawl along walls, other surfaces. This ability also allows him to hold several tons of a single finger. Peter's most famous equipment are his web shooters, which it can use as a means of transportation, ensnaring opponents, and shooting small web bullets. Peter is an excellent fighter and was trained by Shang-Chi, the unique form of martial arts that perfectly utilizes his spider powers called the Way of the Spider. So, that's we got one corner, Peter Parker, the amazing Spider-Man. But entering the ring in the other corner was the last Airbender, Aang the Avatar. Aang was just a carefree 12-year-old monk when he found out that he was the Avatar, responsible for maintaining balance between the four nations. Rejecting his role at first, Aang ran away, became frozen in a state of suspended animation for 100 years. And then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. During those 100 years, a war consumed the world and destroyed every air nomad save for Aang himself. After his release from suspended animation, Aang accepted that he would need to master his abilities as the Avatar and restore balance to the world. As the reincarnation of the Avatar, Aang possessed the power to bend all four elements, making him the most powerful bender of all time. Aang is an airbending master, the youngest in history at the time. He's capable of creating tornadoes or hurricane-force winds, and typically used airbending for pure defense or evasion because of his pacifist nature. The next element he learned was waterbending. He's able to create massive tidal waves, control whole streams or rivers, and preferred to bend from natural sources of water instead of carrying a water shin, which results in water being one of his least used elements in battle, instead favoring other readily available elements such as earth or air. Speaking of earth, Aang had great difficulty in mastering this element because it directly contrasted with his instincts and personality. However, over time, earthbending even became Aang's second most used fighting style behind airbending, due to its general availability and defensive capabilities. Aang was capable of bending large boulders, sending massive columns of rock flying, or even forming rock armor around his body for protection. And then finally there's firebending. This is the element that Aang had the least experience with, despite showing a natural aptitude for it. Aang also rarely utilizes his firebending given his generally pacifist nature. Then Aang can also enter in the Avatar state. The Avatar state utilizes the knowledge and experience of all past avatars. Use the Avatar's unique spiritual energy to increase mastery of the bending arts beyond what is otherwise possible. Although Aang could initially only trigger the Avatar state during times of immense emotional distress or anger, he eventually learned to enter and exit it seamlessly by choice. So, who wins? Well, let's break it down. So now that Avatar The Last Airbender has finally made its way to Netflix, I've watched it, gotten real nostalgic, really wanted to throw Aang into a fight. And who better to throw him up against than Peter Parker, the amazing Spider-Man? So who's coming out on top here? Let's find out. And first things first, talk about physicality. Now for being just a 12-year-old kid, Aang is surprisingly strong and tough. He shattered stone columns, has been sent flying by attacks, even started a lightning strike, although just barely. However, Aang's greatest physical asset is definitely his speed. He's easily evaded blasts from Zuko and Azula, evaded plenty of fire blasts really. He's actually able to run on top of water, and has reacted to arrows fired at him on repeated occasions. He's countered an explosion of an air blast just as soon as it ignites, caught a tornado in order to escape from lightning fired at him, and is just overall incredibly agile and surprisingly fast. But no question about it, Spider-Man is better here across the board. So first things first, how strong is Spider-Man? Well, Pete has held up part of the Daily Bugle skyscraper. He's landed a small private jet. He's actually repeatedly either held up walls or even buildings, and has casually been able to pick up train cars. He's also matched Rhino's strength, overpowered Iron Man and broken his armor, broken apart carbonadium tentacles, and he managed to redirect Mjolnir in midair and again grab Mjolnir right as Thor was trying to throw it. Spider-Man also just throws some seriously powerful punches. He staggered Hulk, Apocalypse, and Phoenix Force Colossus, knocked around Namor, Thing, and Rhino, and one time sent Electro flying through 40 stories in a building. Now, how fast is Spider-Man? Well, he's able to react and perceive time down to microseconds, dodge lightning blast and Gladiator's heat vision after they were fired, and not attack some literal super speedsters. And of course, Spider-Man is able to casually and routinely dodge all sorts of gunfire coming at him, all sorts of angles all at once, really just making it look like the easiest thing in the world. He's even dodged guns before with the barrel of the gun pressed up literally against his head. Then his balance, agility, flexibility, and coordination are all second to none, probably making him the greatest gymnast and acrobat in the entire Marvel Universe. And then in regards to durability, he's taken attacks from unstoppable Colossus, from Rhino and Hercules, literally been thrown a mile away by Hulk. So yeah, Aang has got nothing on him. That's okay, because Aang's going to be attacking with his element bending in this fight, so it can stand up to those kinds of attacks. Well, earthbending is just blunt force attacks, so nothing to it there. In regards to airbending, he's taken thunderclaps from Hulk and Unstoppable Colossus, thunderclaps that were strong enough to shatter every window in the city. And then with firebending and waterbending, well, Spider-Man has fought against Human Torch, Firelord, Hydro Man, Molten Man, and plenty of other water and fire benders. It's not necessarily something new to him. The difference here is that Spider-Man will be going up against someone who can do all of this at once: fire, water, earth, and airbending. That's real different just fighting against one at a time. So what can Aang do with all these powers? Well, his go-to is airbending. He's capable of launching out air blast, sending people flying backwards, even blasting large metal doors off their hinges. He can also use his airbending defensively, creating shields to block melee hits. In regards to this fight, airbending is a great counter for Spider-Man's web shooters, considering that Aang can both block them from coming his way and prevent Pete from landing webs really anywhere. Aang doesn't really use waterbending all that much, but he did use a water whip in this fight against Azula, who whipped fire out of her hands. He's also used water, even ice, for defense too, and created shields to instantly block incoming attacks. With earthbending, he's able to throw boulders and massive stones, create minor tremors in the ground to throw people backwards. He's even pulled the earth up around people and instantly trapped them. And again, Aang can use all this for defense too, making walls withstand attacks, and even creating stone armor to protect him. Then finally we got firebending. And while he rarely utilizes it because it goes against his pacifist nature, Aang's able to send out blasts of fire, blast through stone, even use fire to repel attacks. However, for as powerful as Aang is, and for as versatile as Aang is, all of his attacks move at a set and limited speed. And basically, Spider-Man is able to move a whole lot faster than those attacks. On top of that, Peter's got a spider sense. The spider sense can alert Pete of danger that he can't see, hear, or smell. It gives him a 360-degree view of his surroundings. It slows time down to a crawl, allowing Peter to be 10 steps ahead of opponents, runs through possible battle scenarios, and tells him which one are best while Pete is fighting, and it even lets him position his body or to minimize damage with attacks that he cannot dodge. So yeah, the spider sense is a massive advantage in his corner. And I think it's about as simple as that. Spider-Man is faster, stronger, and more durable. He's very well equipped to dodge Aang's attacks. Aang doesn't fight too offensively, typically fights from the defense, and it's kind of inevitable that Peter eventually lands an attack and takes Aang out. That is, unless Aang goes into the Avatar state. Aang is a whole other beast in the Avatar state, creating a bubble around himself out of all 4 elements at once, to the point where people can't even touch him. He's thrown around pillars of stone, giant fireballs, he can casually destroy entire cities, and even transform himself into giant monsters and creatures. The only problem is, well, Aang could definitely beat Spider-Man in his Avatar state. He doesn't enter into the Avatar state very often, usually only doing it as a last resort, and by that point it's going to be too late. Spider-Man has already come out on top. Aang's good, but he's not this good. Spider-Man wins. But what do y'all think? I would love to hear your thoughts, so sign out down in the comments down below. Also be sure, the like button, subscribe button, turn on notification on the DanCo army, and I will see you next time.